Dr. Tharoor, thanks a lot. It's really a great honor to see you here.
Thank you.
But my question is, you also are prominent, one of the leading Indian political figures. I remember around 10 years ago watching this documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, called Muzaffarnagar Baki Hai. So this is about the UP politics and how what the current authorities in India managed to somehow reshape all the political landscape, making people shift from the way they voted before based on what the regional or linguistic or caste-based lines to, well, a sort of a religious lines, this communalism. So my question to you is, what do you think is happening with India in terms of its electoral system, and whether we're moving to a movie that should be called Bharat Baki Hai? Thank you.
Picture to abhi bahut baki hai. A lot left, because democracy is a process of evolution. And as you well know, democracy is a process, it is not an event. An election is an event. It takes place, it gives you a snapshot of people's views, preferences at a particular time. But then democracy has a wonderful way of changing that picture. The next time around, you get a different result. We have seen in India now, and that's one great strength of our democracy. Now, I would argue that there's more to democracy than the process of elections. Everything that happens between elections also matters. The quality of parliamentary debates, the degree of accountability of the elected representatives to the voters, the freedom of the press and other institutions to challenge those in power. All of these things are also important elements, and these are all in processes of evolution. And one good thing about democracy is that ultimately, when an elected government takes a decision, the public tends to go along with it, because they are, after all, the people who are elected. Whereas when you have sometimes different kinds of systems, you would always have a certain amount of discontent amongst those who've been left out. So all I can say right now is that I think we have a system that's lively, fierce, a lot of contention, a lot of debate, a lot of argument, a lot of disagreement. But ultimately, we are marching in the right direction.
My name is Sidorenko Yakov. I'm Moscow State University from. So my question is, countries may fight to end colonialism at a government level, but what about people? Will it take centuries of equality before it's defeated? And when can a country say it has thoroughly overcome the colonial mentality? Thank you.
You're right that one of the interesting aspects of colonialism is actually the colonization of the mind. Because as you say, the people were trained to think of their own cultures as inferior, their own people as inferior, and the colonialists are somehow representative of all that was good and noble and fine and developed in the world. And this, I'm afraid, we've seen in many, many parts of the world. India was a little fortunate in that we had some people who were interested in sort of Indology for its own sake, and who helped revive, translate, and protect and preserve some of these texts. But it is really only after independence that Indians have fully realized the magnitude of what they themselves have in their own culture and their own heritage, and have revived everything from Indian classical dance, which had been neglected and banished and sidelined, to Indian classical music, to, of course, a consciousness of ancient sciences, ancient practices, including medical practice like Ayurveda, science of wellness like yoga. All of these things have really been given a new revival in India today in the post-colonial era. And that's something that's extremely important and that colonialism took away from others.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Myself, Raja Maurya. I am from Pondicherry, India.
Okay, Harald.
Currently, I am pursuing my master's in global order, challenges and transformation, political science, in Moscow State University. And my research topic is India's emerging order, strategical anatomy of India, in BRICS, Quad, and SEO. My question is that history always repeats. First World War, they created League of Nations in Geneva. After Second World War, they created United Nations in New York. After this there will be a new world order where India will be the new headquarters to balance between them, because India started from a non-element to multi-element. Will India have a new strategical idea to balance between the East and West and be a neutral state to make a new global order headquarters?
Right. No, I wouldn't say history always repeats itself. History will repeat itself if you don't learn from it. I think we've all had to learn. The United Nations in many ways reflects what has been learned about the failures of the League of Nations. And we've seen some of the strengths and the weaknesses of the United Nations as it exists today. Certainly India, as you know, has been advocating reform of the Security Council for some time because it's no longer as representative a body as it ought to be. It reflects the geopolitical realities of 1945, much more than that of 2025. But that's another topic. When you talk about India, yes, strategic autonomy or sovereign autonomy, whatever you want to call that, has been fundamental to our approach to the world. And the reason for that is indeed colonialism. When for 200 years somebody else has been deciding what you're supposed to stand for in the world, somebody else has been speaking for you in the world, somebody else has been representing you in the world, the last thing you want to do is to surrender as an independent nation your right to have your own view to anybody else, which is why India was very reluctant. Not reluctant, it was actually refused to join any alliance, because when you join an alliance, somebody else decides for you what your stand is going to be. And India said, no, we've had 200 years of that, now we decide. There's a joke which may or may not be true about how President Eisenhower's Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, allegedly said to India's first Prime Minister, Nehru, "Are you with us or against us?" And Nehru answered, "Yes." In other words, I'm with you when I agree with you, I'm against you when I disagree with you, and I will decide, depending on the issue. That was the essence of non-alignment. Today, the world is no longer divided in a binary division between two big superpowers. In those days, the US and the Soviet Union, and you had to work out a passage between, which was called non-alignment. Today, the world is much more complex. And in this much more complex world, you have something similar to the World Wide Web, the internet. We're connected in different ways. Just as in the internet, I might be connected to you for some purpose or the other. You might be connected to her, but I may not be connected to her. So you have different connections for different purposes. I'll give you a couple of examples. India, the Indian foreign minister meets his Russian and Chinese counterparts every year in something called RIC. Then they had the Brazilians and the South Africans in BRICS. Now, of course, BRICS is 11, but I'm talking about the original BRICS. Then they take out the Russians, but they keep the Chinese, and they have something called BASIC as a grouping for environmental negotiations. Okay? Then they take out both the Russians and the Chinese, and they have IBSA for South-South cooperation, India, Brazil, and South Africa. Now, all of these configurations are different ways of aligning your interests. And I often joke that India is the only one present in all of these, and not merely because its name begins with a very convenient thing, a vowel. So you can pronounce IBSA and BRICS and BASIC and so on because you have a vowel there. But also because each of these formulae has some value to India, and because India has something valuable to contribute to each of them. That is how the concept of multi-alignment has arisen. We connect for different purposes with different countries. We try not to make any permanent alliances. We keep our own our own autonomy, our own strategic autonomy to decide what is best for us in a particular context. But we also decide who we want to align with on a particular issue. So we may agree with one set of countries on one particular problem and a different set of countries on a different problem. And that, it seems to me, is one way of seeing your way forward in the world.